Hey, there we go. We're, we're back again, and we're going to do part two here. I hope everybody's having a great day. I know I'm pretty excited with all of the things that are going on. The new moon just happened. Energies are terrific, and the dream states for myself have been indicating a lot of events and circumstances that are coming at a personal level for me and for a lot of other people around us. So it should be pretty exciting times ahead. I see it all in a great sense of positivity and creativity, with a little bit of wailing and gnashing of teeth with a few people who they refuse to let go of old belief systems. But hey, that's their issue. Okay, now part two, soul to soul connection, is the word communicate. And again, to be repetitive, and you're probably going to find I'm going to be a little bit repetitive in 2 or 3 of these videos, because sometimes I feel you have to say it 3 or 4 times before it actually sinks in. Not that any of you are stupid. It's just sometimes that the ears are not tuned into the vibration and they don't filter some of the stuff in. So please don't take it as an insult to anyone. It's not intended that way, I can assure you. Okay, now communication, communicate if you will. Again, the situation here that has evolved, and I've seen this happen many, many times, is because these soul-to-soul connections are so intense, it's almost like the playbook or the rule book on relationship behavior, and everything that we thought we knew about relationships based on past experience simply goes right out the window, and we're into a whole new ball game and on a whole new playing field here. And the art of communication becomes a key here. And the way I want to start this video off is in this particular fashion. Excuse me. The communication initially is set up energetically between the two individuals. This takes place in the bubble love phase. Again, I'm going to keep referring back to it because I don't think people are really seeing how significant the bubble love phase is and all of the things that happen. And I know a lot of people talk about it, but they don't go into much detail. But when you have the soul-to-soul connection that comes together and you go into the bubble love phase, or if you want to call it the exalted state or a mystical state, and again, this can be with one higher self in a connection or 2 higher selves involved, or it can simply be a person by themselves. They don't have to be another person to actually go into the bubble love phase. It happens, and it's happened throughout history, where people have gone into exalted states and stayed there indefinitely. And that is ultimately the goal where we're all going, either singly, together as a couple in some form, but we're all going to go there. And this template that we've been given, that I call the bubble love phase, just kind of gives it a different kind of a spin on something that's been around for a long time, but it's now filtering into the general population on a very big scale. So the actual aspect of communication, let me try to put it to you in this form. I know there are many people out there that will understand this when I say this. There's a great many times when I'm getting information or I'm getting a download. The download will come, first of all, as a non-verbal communication, which is a far, far superior form of communication. I believe it's even more superior than having a vision or actually seeing it psychically, as some people do. I believe that when I get a download, what happens is, and this happens to many other people because they've mentioned it to me, is they will get a high-pitched frequency that will manifest in their ear or their head, and immediately it becomes very intense, very loud, and it can last, for me, up to some cases even a minute. And I know that during that high frequency, I have been downloaded, gifted if you want, or templated with information or knowledge that is non-verbal in content, and it's non-visual in content. And it's been downloaded into both hemispheres of my brain. I do have a brain, rather good one, I think. And what happens is the brain then can decipher it, translate it, and put it into form. And what I mean by form is it can come as a knowing. The information just spills out to the individual. It will vary from individual to individual how it comes out, depending on where they are in their self-awareness or their awakening, if I can put it that way. So the communication will come in that fashion. It's the same thing in these soul-to-soul connections. When you're in the bubble love phase, even though the two of you are lost in each other, you're joined at the hip, and sometimes all you want to do is just sit across from each other and look into each other's eyes and go gaga goo goo and just hang on. Communication is taking place. Your higher selves are chatting, if for lack of a better expression. There's communication going on. There's information being exchanged at a molecular, at a cellular, and even at the soul energetic vibration, if you want to call it that. What is also happening is this, at this particular point in time, is in these bubble of or exalted states of consciousness, our veritable DNA is being altered, changed, and modified to higher states of consciousness. The bubble love phase is a very high evolutionary state of being that is experienced by people, by themselves, or in couples, which is happening on a great deal on the planet right now. And everything is subject to change. There is nothing that we've done or had in the past that is not under the situation of change and evolving. Everything is changing and evolving. So the communication begins at that level. When it filters down to, for example, two individuals in and after the bubble love phase has ended, this is where the communication part comes into play. All of the pieces are there. All of the wiring is there for them to be able to communicate, because they were doing it beautifully when they were in the bubble love phase. So all they need to do is to reactivate that template that they've both been downloaded with. And the problem is, and this is where the problem gets into play, is everyone forgets about that. And they revert back to hundreds and thousands of years of relationship downloading and templating previously into the particular soul group that they've incarnated into, the both of them, where they've taken on all of the social belief systems, relationship concept, and also the manifestation of sexual energy and its uses and or misuses within themselves. So now it becomes an opportunity in regards to communication. Because how does the communication begin? First of all, this is something that I know from experience in dealing with a lot of people. Whenever I say, learn the art of communication, everyone thinks I'm talking about two people talking together and communicating with each other. That's not what I'm talking about at all. What I'm talking about is learning how to communicate with yourself, first of all. Understanding. This is why the bubble love phase was such a blessing and such a gift to the individuals who perceived it, either in a couple or by themselves. It doesn't matter. Because at that point, they were downloaded with the communication ability to be able to do that. So what happens is when you start coming down and you both go into that particular phase where you're experiencing different revelations or expressions of yourself based on belief systems, ideologies, philosophies, religious indoctrination, political, etc., 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 what happens is you need to take a look at it and you need to communicate. Now, what I mean by communicate is take a look and communicate with the information, the energy, or the emotions, as most of you call it, and take a look at it and communicate with the emotion or the feeling that's being expressed. How do you do that? We've all been gifted with a mental body. And the mental body is the process of creating thought. And probably some people will disagree with me on that point, but that's okay. I don't expect everybody to agree with me all the time anyways. If I did, I know I'm doing something wrong. I'm just trying to do the best I can to explain the situation to you. So, hey, give me an A for an effort anyway. Okay, so anyways, when you're communicating with your feelings, you're talking to yourself something along this line. Well, why am I feeling this? He or she did that, and I'm feeling this, and I don't really care for the feeling. This is what you're doing inside of yourself. So what you're doing is you're communicating with yourself in the feeling or the vibration or the energy of that particular thing. Every part of you, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, they all have energy. The energy is neutral. It is you, over an extended period of time, that give it life and form. So anything that has been created, say for example, within your emotional body, has been created by you or others around you, and all it is energy, excuse me, that has been given form through thought, which is put into a concrete manifestation through creating a belief system. And this is what is taking place. So if you can communicate with those parts of yourself and understand what's going on. But the problem is when things are not going in a fashion that we see as being amenable or creates for us a state of happiness or what we want, what happens is we're in conflict with those energies. So what happens is the energies which have already been predisposed to certain behavior patterns begin to react. And the mental body stands back and says, holy shit, what's going on? I'm losing it. Yep, you're losing it. You're losing it because you're not communicating with yourself. You are your own teacher. You are your own judge. You are your own jury in that sense. No one else can do it for you. Only you can correct, balance, reprogram, retool, reset the content of the energy that flows through you. And the more energy that flows through you, the greater the content will manifest. That's why the bubble love phase is there. It's there to make you aware of the phases of navigate, communicate, negotiate, compromise. This is what all is happening at this particular point. So when you learn how to communicate with yourself, then what you can do is you can take the energy that has been fueling a particular thought or belief system, and you can change it by releasing the content of it through the mental body, by communicating with the feeling or the expression of the feeling or the pattern. And this is where the intellectual capacity comes into play. And I want to add this in also. A lot of people seem to think that the intellectual capacity is not necessary or you don't need it in spiritual growth. Actually, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm probably going to get a lot of contradictory comments on this. I believe that without the intellectual capacity that everyone has, we will not survive as a species. The problem is the intellectual capacity has been used as predominantly a dominant aspect of self when it has its place and is very important in this communication with yourself. You have to be able to get in there and intellectualize or analyze these expressions of feelings and understand them. You need to be in a point where you're learning to become your own therapist, all right? You're learning to become your own healer. Now, I realize that this is not going to happen overnight. This may take a few decades, all right? And there are going to be people who have progressed along the path and are going to be able to assist others as they come along. This is the way that evolution should work, all right, in this particular fashion. So understanding that the communication with yourself, when you start doing this and you start doing it in a proper fashion, guess what's going to happen? You're going to change the energetic flow or the expression, example, from the emotional self, the feelings that were so predominantly entrenched within you become less and less of a controlling factor within yourself because you've learned how to communicate with your feelings and expression. They just don't explode out of you uncontrolled, if we can put it that way, and you end up looking like an idiot doing something. There, I've used that word again, all right? you end up looking like an idiot. I can assure you that over the years, I have looked like an idiot many times. And I'm sure every one of you out there, I don't care how friggin' involved you are, have looked like an idiot many times also. So there you go. I've used the word idiot 3 times now. You can all make comments on it if you want. I don't give a rat's ass. All right. Now, to continue on with the aspect of the communication, once you start to learn to do this, and I'm just scratching the surface here. I don't want to make the video too long. Once you start doing this with yourself and understanding what's going on within you, and it's not rocket science, it's very easy to understand. Once you get a little bit of a door opener on it, everyone can go to work with it, and then you can get creative and add to it. Once you do this with yourself, then what happens is you're going to find that the energy field surrounding you, your aura, and the energies that flows through the chakras in your body is going to flow differently. So therefore, you're going to be perceived differently. For example, let's suppose, for example, you've got control issues. You're a control freak. There's lots of them around. Women and men are equally as much control freaks as the other. A control freak is someone who is dominated by a predominant feeling of control within themselves for a reason. When that communication takes place with self and the energy of that control aspect, and the person is actually admitted that they're a control freak, something can be done about it by communicating with that feeling or expression, whatever, changing it, releasing it, and let it go. Once it does, then if there was another person involved, the energy exchange between the two of them is different. It reaches a little bit more in depth of what's going on. So the other person will react differently because you've learned how to navigate, you've learned how to communicate, and you've done it for yourself by understanding the energies and the feelings and expressions that's going on. So the communication should be going on with yourself all the time, through all of your life, through everything that happens. It's a learning tool. That's what you're here for. You're here to learn. You don't learn by going to school or high school or university. That's just taking in material that's being regurgitated by another person so that you can join the slave community on the earth and do their program. The actual learning takes place within you. That's why you came here to school, to learn by expressing, by feeling, by communicating with yourself, because you are a universe unto yourself. You have to see yourself in that light. So that when you're dealing with the other person, things have changed now. The dynamics have changed. You've eliminated an aspect of yourself that was impeding the connection between the two of you back in the normal vibration. It's gone. So therefore, you went up a notch. You're starting to drift back up into the bubble of phase. This is not complicated. It's not rocket science. All right? And this is what's taking place when you're communicating with yourself. Then, because you're communicating with yourself, and 9 times out of 10, in these high vibrational soul-to-soul connections, there's also an empathic connection, an intuitive connection going on between the two people. So some people say, well, should I send this to my soul-to-soul connection? And you notice I'm not using that term here. It's a soul-to-soul connection. Should I send helpful energy to my soul-to-soul connection? No, you don't need to do that in a meditation. Because once you did it, that knowledge, because you're already connected at that high vibrational level, has been transposed to that other individual, whether he or she likes it or not. They then can choose to evolve and grow with it and come through understanding. The transposing or the downloading of or templating of other people with information, you never miss with it. All right? I do it all the time. I talk to people a lot of time, and at the same time I'm talking to them, I download them etherically with a lot of knowledge and information that I've acquired over the years. I do that because I get permission from their higher self to do that. And that doesn't mean they're going to use it, but it does mean that they will have access to it when they get to a point. I'm not the only one that does that. There are thousands of people who do this, all right? And they know they're doing it, but they don't say that they're doing it, because a lot of people will take it as they're being egotistical and some kind of, mystical freak doing all kinds of weird things to people. It's an automatic process. I don't say to one person, I'm going to download you with information, or another person, I'm not going to, because you're a bad little doobie and you need to have your pee-pee whacked, okay? I do it because it's an automatic connection, and it happens anyways, whether I have any choice over it or not, because it happens at that higher vibrational level and higher self. So this is what is happening. Okay, now I don't want to make this video too long. I hope I've given some information here that will help you to understand the communication aspect in a soul-to-soul connection begins with you. And you, first of all. You have to communicate with your feelings. You have to get in touch with your feelings. You have to use your mental body to decipher them. And the final thing that I'm going to say in this video is you need to learn how to make deals with yourself. All right? When you learn how to navigate and you communicate, you can do that thing called let's make a deal. You can talk to a particular feeling or a particular energy that contains control or depression or sadness or anger or dysfunctional patterns. You can talk to it. You can make a deal with it and treat it like a childlike person or feeling. Because all of these feelings that are coming up in these connections are part of ourselves that have not reached maturity. In other words, there are a lot of us who think we're very, very mature. But in actual fact, when we're still expressing in this way, we're still growing and evolving in maturity. And some people are probably not going to like that statement. So as high and mighty as some of us think we are, we're always ongoing and on-growing. So the more mature we become, the more mature we have the responsibility of going in and taking a look at it. And when we do this for ourselves, then we change the dynamics between ourselves and our outer world and the other person that we're involved with. It only takes one to do it, to exchange it to another. I hope it's been some help to you. I went on a little longer than I thought on this particular video. So I'll leave it at there and we'll get on with the next part here in a few minutes. Thanks everybody. I enjoyed doing this one. It was fun. I really got into it.